Here are the top stories for today, January 28, 2022. No more green, yellow, and red lists for now. The government suspends its COVID-19 risk classification list and revises protocols for returning Filipinos and foreigners. The Transportation Department says it is now up to local government units outside Metro Manila if they will follow the no vax, no ride policy. 6 more areas are under the stricter Level 3 starting today. A body official reveals she voted to disqualify presidential bet Bongbong Marcos ahead of the official promulgation of the ruling on the former lawmaker's disqualification case. The chief of the country's top sports body laments the continued impasse on amending ties between poll voter E.J. Obiena and his federation. Good day, I'm Marita Muaje. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Returning overseas Filipinos and foreigners may soon enter the Philippines regardless of country of origin. This after the Interagency Task Force suspended the classification of countries at risk of COVID-19. Effective February 1, the green, yellow, and red classifications of countries will be suspended. At the same time, fully vaccinated arriving passengers will be required to present a negative RT-PCR test taken within 48 hours from departure. They will no longer be required to undergo the mandatory facility-based quarantine. Instead, they will do self-monitoring for 7 days from arrival and then report any symptom to their local government unit. Those who are non-vaccinated, partially vaccinated, or of unverifiable status will have to undergo quarantine until the release of a negative RT-PCR test on the 5th day. They will also have to undergo home quarantine for 14 days from arrival while being monitored by the LGU. The Philippines receives ready-to-use cold chain equipment from the Australian government through UNICEF. Among the donated equipment are 30 solar-powered vaccine refrigerators, 8 walk-in cold rooms with generators, 20 PPE sets, and 106 sets of spare parts. The donation is worth 48.7 million pesos. Some 30 health rural units located in geographically isolated communities of PARMM and Davao region will likely benefit from these solar fridges, while the walk-in cold rooms that can store large quantities of vaccine will be deployed in the Cordillera Autonomous Region, Cagayan Valley, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Zamboanga Peninsula, Soxargen, and Caraga. Health Secretary Francisco Duque III and Australian Ambassador Stephen Robinson led the ceremonial handover of the equipment to the DOH at a cold chain warehouse in Parañaque City. Robinson said the donation aims to augment the country's goal to fast-track the COVID-19 vaccination program within the remote areas in the provinces.
Donated cold chain equipment will be indeed of great aid in ramping up our inoculation against COVID. And through these efforts, our government was able to reach our first milestone of fully vaccinating a total of 54 million Filipinos. And this shall likewise be instrumental in achieving the next milestones of the National Vaccine Deployment Plan for COVID-19.
The government will continue to pursue policies and reforms to rebuild a stronger economy and provide Filipinos a safe, healthy, and comfortable life. Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles stated in the report that the Philippine economy expanded in the fourth quarter of 2021. Nograles says the growth of the Philippine economy is proof of the country's strength and resilience amid various challenges. The latest data from Philippine Statistics Authority shows that the Philippine economy expanded by 7.7% in the last quarter of 2021 as easing mobility restrictions perked up consumer spending and business activities, bringing full-year growth to 5.6% and boosting optimism about staging a rapid rebound this year. NEDA likewise said that GDP growth was achieved in the last 3 months of last year despite the impacts of Typhoon Odette, which reduced full-year growth by an estimated 0.05 percentage points. Nograles says Malacanang commends our economic team for deftly managing the economy through these turbulent times and thanks our people for their sacrifices, hard work, and faith in the leadership of President Rodrigo Roa Duterte during this challenging period. He also reiterated a call to the passage of amendments to the Public Service Act and the proposed Livestock Development and Competitiveness Bill and the Philippine Innovation Act to further improve people's productivity. The government's no vax, no ride policy in Metro Manila will only be suspended if the region eases to alert level 2. In a laging handa briefing, the OTR Undersecretary Artemio Guanzon Jr. says the policy has only been suspended for 30 days or until February 25.
Yung 30 days na window na binibigay natin ay para hulang makompleto na nila or makapagpabakuna nila na yung ating mga mamamayan na hindi pa po nakakapagpabakuna for one reason or another. Pero ito na lang po ang binibigay natin na pagkasunduan na po na pagkatapos po nitong 30 days na to ay we will strictly implement no vax, no ride policy na po. But I have to repeat, meron po tayong exemptions dito, yung sa Kraki sa ating no vax, no ride policy. Una po yung ating mga mamamayan na hindi po pwedeng tumanggap ng bakuna for medical reasons. Dapat ipakita lang po nila yung kanilang medical certificate na pirmado ng doktor nila at nandun po yung numero ng doktor nila. Pangalawa po, yung mga kababayan natin na lumalabas for to access essential goods and services. Katulad po ng doktor, pagkain, tubig, dentista, ipakita lang yung kanilang barangay health pass at pasasakayin pa rin po sila.
Guanzon Jr. also said the vaccine policy in public transportation was based on the LGUs' exercise of their police power.
Kung titingnan po natin yung basihan ng ating department order, ito po ay nakabase sa exercise po ng ating mga LGU ng kanilang police power. Sila po ang nakakaalam kung ano po yung kondisyon sa kanilang mga localities at sila po yung may karapatang mag-exercise nitong police power under the local government code. Ngayon, nasa kanila po yun. Kung sila naman po ay maglalabas ng ordinansa o kaukulang kautusan na magpapatupad po rin ng ganitong polisiya, susuportahan naman po ito ng DOTR.
6 more areas are placed under Alert Level 3 starting today until February 15. These are the provinces of Palawan, Camiguin, Davao Occidental, Dinagat Islands, Tawi-Tawi, and Sulu. The IATF is set to announce the new alert level status in Metro Manila and other areas this weekend. The drop in COVID-19 vaccine hesitancy means the government's pandemic response is in the right direction. This is stated by Acting Presidential Spokesperson Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, citing the latest data from the Octa Research Group. Octa's Tugon ng Masa national poll conducted on December 7 to 12 showed that only 5% of adult Filipinos said they do not want to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This is a decrease from the 22% in September. Octa's survey also showed that only 2% of adult Filipinos have contracted COVID-19 infection after being fully vaccinated. The survey also revealed that vaccine hesitancy remains highest in Visayas and Mindanao at 9% each, followed by National Capital Region and Balanced Luzon at 3% each. Nograles said the government will continue to explore different methods to make vaccines more accessible to our people, such as the Res Bakuna sa Butika Drive and the We Vax as One mobile vaccination drive for transport workers. Vaccination sites will soon open in public terminals and pharmacies in Cebu to ramp up the inoculation of drivers, passengers, and their dependents. Starting next week, the DOTR will open its vaccination site at the LTO7 Malasakit Licensing Office on Natalio Bacalso Avenue. The next vaccination site will be at the Mactan Cebu International Airport and pharmacies. Secretary Michael Lloydinho of the Office of the Presidential Assistant for the Visayas says the idea came out after the DOH Central Office opened pop-up vaccination desks in pharmacies in the National Capital Region. In an interview, Dino said his office has formed a team comprising the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases, Visayas, Department of Health Central Visayas, and the OTR so that people can easily get their COVID-19 vaccine. He also said that the private sector group is also helping the government through its project Balik Buhay. News around the globe, a new version of Omicron COVID-19 variant is spreading rapidly in parts of Asia and Europe. The new version, called BA2 sub-variant, is said to be spreading much faster than the BA1 version. Dr. Alper Sener of Turkey's Coronavirus Scientific Advisory Board says there was evidence that BA2 has been gaining ground in countries such as India and Denmark over recent weeks. Sener said BA2 is detectable with PCR tests and has not caused an increase in hospitalization and death rates so far. However, it could be more resistant to existing vaccines. Sener said understanding its characteristics will help accelerate ongoing scientific efforts to update COVID-19 vaccines. Still ahead, the Labor Department is shelling out an initial 130 million pesos for some 25,000 workers hit by Alert Level 3. And the Tourism Department considers the plight of affected employees in shortening Berjaya Makati Hotel's suspension. Details ahead, keep it here on the PNA Newsroom. COMELEC Commissioner Rowena Guanzon says her dissenting opinion was to disqualify presidential aspirant Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. In an interview, Guanzon says she has voted to approve the petition seeking to disqualify the former senator because of moral turpitude based on evidence on the law. Guanzon added that she submitted her opinion on the case to the two other commissioners of the First Division, Marlon Casquejo and Aimee Ferolino, and the rest of the commission en banc. She said their vote should already be on the record and be considered by the next presiding commissioner. She also said she received information that there are efforts to influence the other officials. Guanzon appeals to them not to interfere so that the ponente can release the resolution until Monday next week. Guanzon is retiring on February 2 together with Chairman Sheriff Abbas and Commissioner Antonio Co. Jr. Some 25,000 workers in areas placed under Alert Level 3 will receive a one-time cash assistance worth 5,000 pesos each. Labor Assistant Secretary Dominic Tutay said the Department of Labor is set to release an initial 130 million pesos grant of cash assistance for workers affected by permanent closure, retrenchment, and temporary closure. She said the initial funding is part of the 1 billion peso allocation under the COVID-19 Adjustment Measures Program, or CAMP 3, which was sourced from the DOLE's budget for this year. Companies and individuals may apply online by submitting their applications and required documents at reports.dole.gov.ph. They may also contact the DOLE Helpline 1349 or DOLE Regional and Field Offices. The Department of Agriculture has started the distribution of cash assistance to rice farmers in Zamboanga, Sibugay Province. At least 1,300 farmer beneficiaries in the town of Diplahan received cash aid through the DA Region 9's Rice Competitiveness Enhancement Fund Rice Farmer Financial Assistance Program, or RCEF-RFFA. Each of them received 5,000 pesos, all sourced from the total program fund of 6.7 million pesos. The RCEF-RFFA program is aimed at assisting rice farmers who are affected by the implementation of the rice tariffication law. The government launched the program to provide compensation for the projected income loss of rice farmers due to the decline in the prices of palay. Over 11,000 other rice farmers in Zamboanga, Sibugay will also receive their 5,000 pesos cash subsidy from the DA soon. The Department of Environment and Natural Resources has recommended an extensive cleanup drive around Paway Lake after declaring it unfit for swimming. A portion of Paway Lake is being developed as a new inflatable island water park to be fully enjoyed by visitors. The water park was set to be open today, January 28. In a letter to the Ilocos Norte government, the DNR reported that Paway Lake is highly contaminated with harmful E. coli bacteria. The DNR recommended that visitors be kept away from the water until fecal coliform levels have been reduced to meet safety standards. Among the DNR's recommendations is for the local government to conduct an inventory of households and septic tanks around Paway Lake and to institute measures to address domestic sewage. Since 2010, the provincial government has started working on promoting the lake as a venue for water sports activities until the pandemic struck the country. The Department of Tourism has shortened the suspension of the Berjaya Makati Hotel from 3 months to 2 months following its involvement in the case of Guanzon, also known as Poblacion Girl. In a statement, the DOT said it took into consideration the hotel staff who would be affected by the temporary closure. The hotel was suspended after allowing Chua, a traveler from the United States, to leave its premises while still under mandatory quarantine in December last year. Chua was seen at a bar in Poblacion, Makati and later tested positive for COVID-19 along with several of her close contacts. In a separate letter, the department affirmed its order revoking the hotel's authority to operate as a multiple-use hotel, which permitted it to welcome both staycation guests and returning Filipinos undergoing quarantine. For its part, the hotel management has committed to implement stricter measures to prevent similar occurrences in the future. Up next, the chief of the Philippine Sports Commission is disappointed over the halted mediation between EJ Obiena and this Track and Field Federation. And a bitter and sweet treat looms as an IP community in Ilocos Norte wants to expand chocolate production. More stories when the PNA Newsroom returns.
Nais mo bang bumalik at magsimula ng panibagong buhay sa inyong probinsya? May solusyon dyan. Bisitahin ang balikprobinsya.ph upang mag-apply. Pero ano nga ba ang Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa Program o mas kilala bilang BP2? Ang programang ito ay binuo ng gobyerno mula sa EO 114 na naglalayong matugunan ang lumulobong populasyon at pagsikip ng mga residential area sa NCR. Layunin rin ng BP2 na makapagbigay ng pantay na oportunidad sa mga Pilipinong magbabalik probinsya. Ligtas at libre kang makakabalik sa inyong probinsya sa tulong ng BP2. May kasama pang tulong pinansyal at oportunidad para makapagsimula ng pangkabuhayan. Bagong pag-asa ang hatid ng Balik Probinsya program. Kaya naman ano pang hinihintay mo? Mag-register na sa balikprobinsya.ph.
A youth group in the Caraga region on Thursday condemned the Communist New People's Army for killing the father of a KK-DAT active member in Butuan City. The Kabataan Kontra Droga at Terorismo or KK-DAT reported in a statement the killing of 66-year-old Severino Calvarez, a foreman and the father of KK-DAT member John Harold Calvarez. Police said at least 8 NPA rebels forcibly entered the Calvarez house and shot him dead on January 24 in Porjuan, Barangay Anticala. The KK-DAT assailed the NPA, citing its so-called tendency to commit crimes for the sake of their ideology. The group noted that the family of John Harold has contributed much to the anti-drugs and anti-terrorism movement in Butuan City. They also demanded for justice to be served for the Calvarez family and for those who have lost their lives and loved ones to the communist terrorists. In continued efforts to rehabilitate Marawi City, Task Force Bangon Marawi and its partners opened a trade fair to showcase local products and reach out to the war-torn city's residents affected by the pandemic. More on this from Claire Gighe.
The best of Marawi City's local products and government's livelihood and employment services takes center stage again for this year's Kawiyagan. Kawiyagan, a Maranao term for livelihood, was launched by the Subcommittee on the Business and Livelihood of Task Force Bangon Marawi or TFBM in August 2018 to showcase the convergence of different government agencies and private organizations to aid internally displaced persons or IDPs to recover from the siege through livelihood assistance. This year, Kawiyagan features a trade, techno and job fair, TVET enrollment, business one-stop shop, orientation and civil documentation, and free haircut, manicure and pedicure services. It was held for 2 days from January 26 to 27.
Napakaganda po ito na nagsimula na naman ngayong 2022 at ito po ay sabi ko nga makakapagbigay ng oportunidad sa ating mga kababayan na nawala ng hanapbuhay because of the siege and of course itong nangyaring pandemic.
Another highlight is the conduct of Peace Walk by Rahima Peace Weavers Producer Cooperative in partnership with the Philippine Business for Social Progress or PBSP. This is a fashion show showcasing the many faces of langkit, a multicolored fabric used by Maranaos to style their clothing. Various livelihood assistance were also awarded to their rightful beneficiaries. Community and Family Services International or CFSI gave their protection, psychosocial and livelihood assistance such as the marriage and birth certificates and livelihood equipment for particular groups. The Bar Ministry of Social Services and Development through the LGU Marawi City distributed sacks of rice to target people. Save the Children Philippines likewise handed in 15,000 pesos startup capital to young entrepreneurs venturing into enterprises. Meanwhile, Plan International turned over livelihood equipment worth 2 million pesos for 6 group grantees focused on horticulture and tilapia production and bread and pastry making. Boses ng Kabataang Maranao was also launched to amplify the voices of young Maranaos, while the third Ranao Project Grant Program awarded 75,000 pesos each to top 5 organizations whose social enterprises performed well. With the successful turnout of the event, the TFBM is thankful to its partners and participants and hopes to conduct it again.
Titingnan natin kung kaya natin manhuli. Ang Kawiyagan will not be just simply like the distribution, but po pwede sa trade fair. So titingnan natin kung sustain natin yan. Hopefully, kaya pa.
For PNA Newsroom, Claire Gigha of the Philippine Information Agency, Lanao del Sur.
General Santos City confirmed on Thursday its first positive case of African swine fever. City Veterinary Office Chief Dr. Antonio Efraim Mari said the case came from Purok San Lorenzo, Barangay Apopong. The ASF scare began on January 12 after residents were alarmed by the deaths of several hogs that started from the backyard of Franco Magway, a buy and sell hog dealer. The finding was reported on January 24 by the Department of Agriculture Satellite Laboratory in Barangay Lagaw. Reports said since Tuesday, a total of 508 hogs have been culled from the affected area. General Santos City maintains an 8 billion peso hog industry, the third largest in the country, with more than 5,000 workers relying on it for income. The province of South Cotabato and the city is among the top producers of live hogs in the country, shipping out at least 15,000 heads every 2 weeks to Metro Manila and Luzon. In sports, Philippine Sports Commission Chair Butch Ramirez expressed his disappointment over the postponement of the mediation between the Philippine Athletics Track and Field Association or PATAFA and pole vaulter EJ Obiena. Ramirez commented for the first time since Obiena begged off from joining the mediation process due to his mistrust against PATAFA. Ramirez stressed that mediation is the best option to resolve the matter, but both parties must voluntarily and willingly participate. He, however, reiterated that the PSC remains open should Obiena finally decide to agree on the mediation. Ramirez said mediation does not silence the truth, but rather offers a safe and neutral ground for discussion without judgment. He appealed to PATAFA President Popoy Huico and Obiena to unite and settle their differences for the good of Philippine sports. The chocolate-growing IP community in Adams, Ilocos Norte have announced plans to plant and promote more varieties of chocolates. IP growers in the community will develop at least 10 more hectares of cacao. Biel Maju Wali, a doctor and a high-value crop farmer and food processor, is assisting local farmers in their expansion while sharing her expertise in processing cacao food products. Wally owns a small chocolate factory that produces chocolate bars, tablea, cacao, wine, and chocomint drinks. Earlier, the Department of Trade and Industry unveiled a shared service facility for cacao processing for high-value commercial crop farmers in the area. The Inuwayan farm, owned and managed by the Wali family, is being proposed as an alternative learning site for interested farmers. In the 1980s, several cacao varieties were introduced in Adams, making the municipality the cacao capital of Ilocos Norte. Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. No more green, yellow, and red lists for now. The government suspends its COVID-19 risk classification list and revises protocols for returning Filipinos and foreigners. The Transportation Department says it is now up to local government units outside Metro Manila if they will follow the no vax, no ride policy. 6 more areas are under the stricter Level 3 starting today. A poll body official reveals she voted to disqualify presidential bet Bongbong Marcos ahead of the official promulgation of the ruling on the former lawmaker's disqualification case. The chief of the country's top sports body laments the continued impasse on amending ties between pole vaulter EJ Obiena and his federation. As Filipinos, we all have a vital role to play in preventing the spread of COVID-19. So remember, wear face masks and face shields. Wash your hands often. Practice safe physical distancing. Go out only for essential reasons. And get vaccinated as soon as possible to protect ourselves, our families, and the community. Together, we can beat COVID-19. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. For more news content, check our webpage or log on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agency. Also, you may watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Stay safe. Have a good day.